Have you noticed that your marketing and communication sometimes just falls flat with engagement? That people don't always convert on your newsletters, blog posts, and other marketing? Well, there's a reason for that, and B2B marketers are perhaps the worst offenders in the underlying cause. As humans, we're instinctively designed to continually adapt and evolve. And the problem comes from the fact that our brains have now learned, and now within a fraction of a second can tell if a picture is a real one or a stock image. Traditional stock images are killing conversion results, and there's a lot more at play which you need to know about if you're interested in increasing engagement and making sure that your sales and marketing messages are heard. Joining me on the 414 this week is Jonathan Lowe, an award-winning digital marketer who specializes in Neuro marketing. Jonathan will be sharing some incredible insights on the science involved, giving real-world examples to help explain the problem, as well as prescribing the remedy for how you can stop doing what everyone else is doing, and with that, make your visual content stand out across all channels. Yes, hello and good morning and welcome to the 414 Live with myself, James Rostance, live here in Southampton, UK. And we've got a very special guest on the way today, because we'll be talking about the problems which B2B marketers are facing right now with regard to stock images and your visual media. Welcome along though, this is the 414 Live. Each and every week we help you as a professional B2B marketer enhance and expand your professional knowledge so that you can improve the results that you get, do better in your job, and just drive yourself forward in really excelling what you do. So, as I mentioned earlier, on the way to today, we will be speaking about the challenges that B2B marketers face with regard to visual imagery. And the problem stems from the fact that our brains, it would seem, are able to now recognize when an image is a stock image or not. And with that, we're also very good now at discounting that and moving along. Now, if you're producing social content, and indeed you want people to engage with your website, your media, and anything else that you produce, you don't want them ignoring it. But joining me live from Aarhus in Denmark to help with this, expert Jonathan Lowe. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks a lot for having me, and great pronunciation of our city name.
Thank you very much. I was a little bit worried about that. I was practicing it when the titles were running. Then I was like, Aarhus. But thank you very much. I will. I'll take that as today's first win. So, Jonathan, thank you ever so much for joining us. Now, this whole problem then of us becoming essentially, as I understand it, immune to stock images, I can relate to that. And when we first spoke, it totally made sense. But for the benefit of the viewers, could you, in your own words, articulate and explain what the problem is that marketers are facing right now with regard to stock images?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we are kind of facing the same problem as we started facing around 10 years ago with banner advertising. So I remember when I started my first marketing company in 1999, banners were a new and fresh thing, and you would notice them on the websites, and you would think, wow, that's a creative ad. And then we sort of come 5-10 years later, and people just start browsing without even seeing them. And now today, maybe 30% of the population and the buyers will have ad blockers installed. Then moving on to the charity industry, we've seen it with starving African children, where they used to sort of create emotions in us. And we know that also in B2B marketing, emotions drive a lot of the purchases. And we've sort of become immune to them as well. And now I think the time has come to both stock photos and product photos, where we've sort of seen too many examples of innovation being explained with a goldfish jumping from one ball to the other. We see the image and either we laugh off the image, or also it becomes more like subtle in our brain. We don't even notice it, but a lot of the stock photos out there, at least historically, simply don't work anymore. And since visuals are such an essential part of B2B marketing and selling, B2B marketers need to really realize how can they then distinguish between a stock photo and an authentic one, and that's a sort of a discipline and a skill in its own.
I can appreciate that. You mentioned then briefly about the goldfish bowl leaping from one to the other. I've definitely seen that a lot in the past. Could you get what are the other main ones that are maybe worth calling out for overused stock images that you see all the time to try and represent a point? What one spring to mind for you?
I mean, a lot of companies try to communicate something with loyalty or relationships. I mean, apart from the photos of their actual products or services. Mm-hmm. And I think we've all seen the picture perfect looking couple. For some reason, they all look like they just had their teeth bleached. For some reason, they have no bad skin whatsoever. And for some reason, the sun is always shining. They're always sitting in the best possible location or with your product in their hands, and life is perfect. And it's sort of the history of marketing as well, you know. We are slowly beginning to understand the importance of authenticity, but marketing historically, also B2B, has been about selling dreams or solving product problems through imagery, and we need to sort of reinvent ourselves as marketeers and understand that transparency and authenticity is becoming vital, and not least in B2B industries.
Sure. Well, could you explain about the science behind your discovery and how to explain all of this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have a photo of a brain scan. And basically, I'm very interested in neuromarketing, and neuromarketing is a discipline within marketing where you try to link brain science with purchase patterns. So you present people with different images or campaigns, B2B campaigns, and then you register so what is going on in their brain at the same time. And what we know from 30-40 years of brain studies, it's that you will see certain parts of the brain lighting up when it's exposed to a certain kind of image or photo. And since we are in the discipline of marketing, you would want sort of the right places in the brain to light up, and those are the ones associated with emotions, because that is 95% of why we make a purchase. So brain studies and neuromarketing, here we have tried a jump story to link it with how to select the right kind of images. So when we try to give our customers photos to choose from, we try to run them through this methodology of saying, well, the first sort of thing that an image has to do is create some sort of emotion. And the science just shows us that stock photos in the old way simply don't do this anymore. So you might as well not use them if you're using the old ones that you can buy on sort of the old platforms.
Sure. We've got some examples lined up. So if you want to just tell me which ones to pull up on screen, we'll get those on screen to help show you.
Sure. So we have an example of two photos that are sort of trying to signal the same. And then it, of course, for the audience or the listeners, then having a look at them will also show you how sort of trained you are in looking at images. Once you have started to understand the sort of methods behind which photos to choose, and it's both stock photos, because stock photography basically means that it's not taken uniquely for one purpose. So there's nothing wrong with a stock photo, but it's sort of stock photos have also become synonymous with the ones that you see on, I think it's your left of the screen now. Those are the images that sort of belong to the past.
Just 1 second. So which image would you like me to put up first? So we've got, which one of one to
Let's take the one where your brain says, okay, this looks like a picture perfect photo.
Which,
like the one, now we can also test you.
So the one of the couple, right? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Screen now. There we go. Right. So one of those two images is a stock photo, and one is a real image. As you were saying.
Yeah, I mean both are stock photos in the sense that those
really?
are just like Yeah, but both are stock photos in the sense that a stock photo is just a photo not taken for one specific purpose and not unique. So you would gain access to them online by buying them. But you see a huge difference in the two images, where one sort of seems like the old-fashioned picture perfect one on the left, and the other one sort of, it doesn't look like a photo you would not necessarily see on Facebook, like me and you have just taken a random one with our iPhone. There's still some aesthetics, but we're getting closer to that. And maybe social media is really relevant to mention here as well, because social media has a lot to play as a role in why this change has happened in how we perceive images. Because social media has opened up for everyone being a photographer, everyone sharing their photos online. So our brain is getting wired into seeing, okay, so this is real and authentic, and this helps our brain distinguish from the ones where a photographer has spent a lot of time on staging everything and setting the light perfect and so on. And we would want to go for the ones that look authentic, because those are the ones that can give people emotions. And whether you then have your own photos taken or whether you find them on a place like Jumpstory, you really need to consider how you pick your images in the future. It can increase your conversion rate dramatically if you practice the skill of seeing two images and being able to distinguish which one works and which one doesn't.
Right. Well, with that said, you've got some other examples to share right here. The next one is looks like a couple and a dog. Do you want that one? Right. That one's on now. There we go. So on the left there is a couple. Don't know if they're having an argument next to a boat, or they're just there holding a rose, and the other one is a dog on the right. Can you talk us through those images?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, I think actually the best test, instead of me explaining which one to pick, is sort of to have a look at the images yourself and then sort of feel, does this create an emotion in me? And if so, what kind of emotion do I feel? And I emphasize this because a lot of the times I experience B2B marketeers spending a lot of time on writing, a good text for their newsletter or their blog or their website or social media, and then they think, oh yeah, but I have to find some sort of picture to go along with it. And they spend like 20 minutes and finding some random photo on a platform. And we need to take it more seriously that photos are maybe 80% on the brain, and we pick them up 60,000 times faster than text, our brain instinctively, because we are visual animals. So every time that you as a B2B marketeer produce some sort of content, you need to understand that this part of picking an image is not just as a supplement to the text. I would actually suggest going the other way around, saying we have some sales targets or goals. We should start with discussing which kind of atmosphere do we want to create on the people seeing our post. And if we want them to feel happy or excited or thoughtful, then we should go on stock photo platforms where they have authentic images and then look for those kind of photos rather than just saying, oh, I need like maybe a product shot. Because again, a product shot, unless you have an amazing design, it's also kind of boring, right? It's very few brands who in their own right have given emotions by design. But I mean, I can name, even though it's B2C for most, I mean, Apple computers are an example of where it's sort of built in the emotion, because I have a PC myself. I would never dream about polishing my laptop computer. It would make me look silly. I have a Lenovo, but I see the Mac people sitting and polishing their computers, making them clean, and that shows you have actually an emotional connection to something that's just an object. And it's the same with B2B. You can create really strong emotions either in the design or with the photos that supplement your products.
I understand. Okay, so to put this in a nicely packaged answer then, so what specifically do you prescribe as a remedy to the issue of being immune to stock photos?
You mean the origin of why we are this?
Or rather, how do you overcome it? Could you articulate how do we as B2B marketers overcome the problem of people recognizing now stock images quite so readily and quite so easily. What needs to go into your image choice to get around that problem?
Yeah, we really need to practice our emotional skills, and a lot of the time B2B marketing or B2B in itself is not associated with the same kind of mindset as B2C, where like B2C is typically perceived as more creative and more emotional and more fun, but really it's still people buying from people. You want to have the same kind of reactions associated with your product, because no matter if you sell a service for €1,000 or €100,000, a lot of the decision making will be based on emotions. Then we might justify it afterwards. Especially us men, we have a tendency to, like women, do 95% of our decision based on emotions, but then justify them afterwards with rational arguments. What photos can help you do, if they are not fake looking, they can help you push the receiver. So there are sort of two ways. Either you can train your skills yourself, so you can look through, and that's how the brain works. You need to train your patterns. You can look through 1,000 photos or more and sort of map your skill into seeing whether this looks authentic or not. Or you can jump to a platform like JumpStory, where we have done the work for you. So we have sort of sorted out the fishbowls examples. So it's very much about this is a B2B marketing skill, just like being able to produce a marketing campaign or a landing page or looking in your Google Analytics.
Gotcha. So very much what I'm taking from that then is to, at all costs, avoid cheesy, that's probably the best word for it, right? Cheesy, obvious stock images, because we recognize it's not authentic and not connected with the subject matter. Is that a good way of describing that?
Yeah, and remembering again, it's people buying from people, so it's a relationship and trust game. Mm-hmm. And we know from our own lives and experience that life is not perfect. And why is it that we try in photography to mirror a world that doesn't exist? It's kind of like the movement going on right now on Instagram, where like just 2 years ago, Instagram was portraying a perfect world without problems. And now some of the biggest influencers out there are, the perfect looking women with millions of followers are showing, some fat on their stomach or without makeup. It's sort of a counter reaction to what has been going on in marketing for too long. And It's the same in B2B marketing. We are fed up with the stories about products that never fail and photos showing a product that you actually are not getting.
Okay. This ties in very nicely, yes, to what appears to be the running theme of authenticity and connecting with B2B buyers on an emotional level. And this really does tie in quite beautifully to it. Okay, so what else would you add in terms of direction for marketers to take when maybe conceptualizing campaigns?
Yeah, I would always go for images that in themselves tell a story, because as human beings, we love stories. We can't live without stories. The way where we meet new people, we tell our story, and sometimes it changes over time because our memory gets worse over time, but we sort of tell the way we meet each other and understand each other is through stories. So I would also encourage B2B marketers, when they have written content and are looking for a photo, if you're in the industry of whatever, trains, please don't show so many photos of trains. Rather think about what is it actually that I'm selling, and you're selling maybe dreams, experiences, convenience. So that's what you also want to communicate in a more symbolic way in your photos. So like as an example, on our own JumpStory blog, when we communicate about a topic, we try to never use like photos of that exact topic, but more like tell a story with the photo. So if you are a B2B marketeer and you're selling a service with online marketing, oh my gosh, I've also seen so many of these photos with like Facebook and LinkedIn icon or something. And it's just, I understand that is your industry, but what is your message? What is your key selling points? What are your USPs? And can you put them into a photo that one looks authentic, but maybe also just triggers some sort of emotion. And that is again a skill for the marketeer to sort of say, what kind of mood do I want the person to be in when they read it? Because as I said, 60,000 times faster, you understand the image. So before you even start to read the text, you have seen the image, and the image has put you in a certain mood, and this mood influences how you read the text.
Nice. Sorry, we've lost my studio camera, so we can only see you at the moment. We're just rebooting that. Here we go. Right, we're back in the game. Boom, there we go. What I was picking up from that as well is it seems that, if we're honest, we've been lazy up until this point with our choice of images because of the drive or tendency to go for something which directly represents that which we're talking about. Is that a nice, almost, how do you describe it? Is that a good way of describing it?
Very good way of putting it, because and just like B2B marketeers will maybe spend a whole day writing a blog post, 2,000 words, and then they realize they need the photo, but they forget that before you start reading those 2,000 words, you're not in any kind of mood. You just click on a link on LinkedIn or something, and then when you land on the page, your first 2 photos will determine how your brain perceives what is written. It's not the other way around. So you cannot convince a person who's in a bad mood to feel good about your product. So you sort of need, it's like when you go to a supermarket, even though I know it's not B2B, they will spray out different kind of scents in the room. So when you go to like the vegetable department, they will try to influence your brain with like a smell that is fresh, because then you will put that association to their products. And it's the same with B2B marketing. You want people to be in a certain mood when they approach your message.
You know what I'm picking up from this is that typically you'd always look at your this is in relation to content or media that you put out. You'd put the most work into and work on your headline because that's the most important thing. But the point you're making quite nicely right here is actually the image or choice of image is on par with the headline. Could there almost be an argument that the image is perhaps almost more important? Have you got anything to maybe add to that in terms of how we weight visual imagery versus text? Because hasn't there been some sort of study in relation to what we respond to best?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely respond best to images, but you can say that the headline of a newsletter is still vital to get people's attention, because if the headline doesn't work, you don't even open the newsletter. Or if you go to a website and you have this 3 to 5 second span where you need to get people's attention, and if the text is totally off, you will not get it. But let's take the example with the B2B newsletter. So the headline makes you actually open the email and maybe click on a link. But the second that you go to the website, if the photos don't reinforce some sort of emotion that we want people to be in, you've lost the clicks. So you might be very good at sending out newsletters that people click on, but really, like, measuring on clicks is a vanity metric. It makes it look good. Wow, I had 40% clicking. But if only 5% bought, then it doesn't really matter. And photos are very, very powerful tool to actually get people to make a decision. I mean, look at how the checkout flows are still built on the internet. So when you put something in your basket, then the way it works is you see something very visual, you want to buy whatever, some clothes, and then you come to the checkout and you just see numbers. And we still wonder, why do so many people abandon our site when they are to pay? Well, it would be the same as going into a store on a shopping street, finding the clothes that you want to buy, and then when you approach the register, the store manager will sort of drag all the clothes away from you, and instead he will give you a small note with the amount. That's what we're doing online. We're sort of forgetting, the experience in all of this.
Yes, yeah. Wow. Okay, so it would seem then in that case, from what you're prescribing, I'd say, is that first important thing to look at headlines still, but then immediately after that, your choice of image to make sure that people invest in your content. And the other takeaway I was getting from that is that you're then, with your choice of image, guiding people towards how you want them to feel about what it is you're there to talk to them about. Is that also a good way of summarizing what you were sharing just then?
Yeah, and what you want them to associate your product with, what kind of emotions you want them to put into your product.
Perfect. Wow. Well, hey, I guess we've got one more thing which I always like to ask guests, which is, moving forward, what would you recommend as a course of action for marketers who seen the light with all of this maybe and think, yes, that is a good idea? What should they do from now on as a starting point to be better at choosing images for their visual content?
Yeah, I think they should, every time they do a campaign or a message, they should both focus on the actual, like the rational content. What do we want to say about our product or service? That's the text part. And then they should always consider, so what would be the optimal emotion or things associated with what I'm doing? And then go to, and of course this is a blunt commercial, I know, go to Jump Story, but you can also go to another website what we have done is curate the images that are actually authentic, but no matter where you go, then have this filter and remind yourself that ads don't work anymore like they used to, and traditional marketing doesn't work like it used to. But what we have seen working is social media and exploding, and what characterizes social media is relationships between people and authentic content. So if you can combine those two things in your B2B marketing, then you can dramatically increase your conversion rates. So the headlines will make people attracted to what you do, but it's the images and the stories that will make them purchase what you sell.
That's perfect. Jonathan, thank you ever so much for joining us today, live from Aarhus in Denmark. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
And if you've enjoyed watching today, then please do head to the414.net to subscribe to the show so that you can get notifications just before we go live, as well as links to subscribe on your favourite podcasting app. There we go. The 414, insights and wisdom from some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing each and every week. In the meantime, my name's James Rostance. Thank you very much for watching.